Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talking Drum on Viva Niger Radio. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you've had a really good week. And as usual, we're bringing you a very wonderful topic, and we are going to set the world to rights. As usual, please note if you want to join the call, if you're calling in from the UK, you can dial 0330-998-1261. And if you're calling from the US, it's 1-712-770-4032. And from Nigeria, it's 1-440-5024. And in all instances, you're going to need the access code 264812, and you can call in and discuss with us and also speak to your host today, Bimbo, which is me. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be discussing today female genital mutilation. Yes, not necessarily a pretty topic, but it's one of those topics that we absolutely need to discuss. So thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to go to the studio to confirm that we have our other hosts in the studio. Hello, guys. Good evening. Hi, Rachel. Hello. Oh, right. Okay. Hello. Good evening, guys. Hi, Rachel. Can you hear me? Rachel?
Hi, this is not Rachel. This is Moby.
Hi, Moby. How you doing? I can see you on the call. Thank you so much for joining us. I thought Rachel was on as well, but I don't think she is available at the moment. She's probably on mute. Hi, Moby. I think this is probably the second time or third time we've had you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Correct, yes.
I hope you are ready to get stuck into this discussion this evening. And as I mentioned,
I am too.
and as I mentioned, I'm your host, Bimbo. We're going to have a few other people join the call a bit later on. And we have Rachel from the US joining shortly. But let's get started. This is one of those topics where I've always heard about, but to be honest, I don't actually know any specific details about it. And I'll be interested to find out from the people who actually know. One of the things that's always sort of stumped me is the reason why female genitalia mutilation is actually performed. I know various countries probably have various cultural reasons they do it, or maybe even religious. It'd be interesting to find out if you know why some of these cultures actually perform this unnecessary surgery.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so first off, pardon any sounds or noises you hear.
Right, okay.
From my end, and let me know if it gets too distracting. I will try to turn it down a little bit. I'm trying to run out of work, and this is a topic that I'm very, very interested in.
Good.
Because one, Rachel had approached me about this topic because she knew that I had taken up the same topic on my show a couple months ago, and I used myself as a case study, being that I don't know if I should call it I was a victim or I was a participator or something of female genital mutilation. But back to your question, female genital mutilation is done for a series of reasons. Mostly, the most common reason is that it curbs promiscuity.
Yes.
In women, whatever that means.
I have read that. Hi, Rachel. Ooh, I thought I heard her just a second ago. Right, please go on, Moby.
I thought I heard another voice too. Yeah, but that's the major reason. It curbs promiscuity. I don't know where they got that from or how they got that. And also another thing is it's more like a ladies in my mother's lineage
Yes.
were circumcised to a certain, my mom was circumcised fully. I was partially circumcised because my mother could not take it anymore in the moment of the crude surgery taking place with my screen.
Right. Okay.
Keep in mind, I was a child. I was a baby.
How
And,
you were a baby? Right.
There was no anesthetic, nothing. So basically, I have no recollection. I'm just speaking off of my mom's own recollection of it. But apparently, there was no pain relief. There was nothing, and they basically cut me. My cut is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I have come to accept it. I have come to love it. It has become a thing of beautiful pleasure to me. Let me put it that way. So
right. Okay.
That is my own little bit about FGM.
You mentioned you're only partially circumcised. What does that mean? I mean, I've always thought it was just a cut of the fold. Actually, before I continue on that, we have someone else who has just joined. The number ending 6147. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's me, Rachel. Here.
Oh, hi.
Hello, buddy.
How are you doing, Nkiru?
Good evening, everyone.
Why does your number look like a foreign number?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
All right. Okay. Well, anyway, I was just asking Moby. From the very little that I know about FGM, I've always thought it's the kind of the labias that's cut off. The two folds on either side that's cut off. But apparently, so also could the clitoris itself.
There are actually 4 types of female genital mutilation.
Right.
4 grades. Let's put it that way. And the first is a plain one. The first is the easy one, just the clitoris hood, not the clitoris itself.
Right.
There is a hood on the clitoris that's been cut off. And that's the first stage. The second stage is the clitoris hood and the clitoris being cut off. The third stage is the clitoris hood, clitoris cut off, the labia cut off. That's the third stage. Now, the fourth kind of circumcision, which is the worst, most barbaric kind ever, is where they cut all of that off, and then they now sew up your vagina. Like, they actually sew up whatever is left of your vulva, rather, not your vagina, of your vulva. I was corrected the last time, too, about that. They sew up what is left of your vulva and leave just a tiny hole for you to pee through.
And how is a woman supposed to have children in that instance? I mean, what's the point of that?
I for the first time in my life, I actually met a lady that had a Nigerian lady. Now, this kind of circumcision is mostly found like in Eastern Africa kind of thing.
Yes.
But apparently, some royal families,
yes,
based on this lady's history, she was from a royal family, and that was a thing that was done. Basically, their husbands forced, I'm sorry, visual much, but yeah. From the royal family, they had to sew them up to make sure that they were kept for their Prince Charming, so to say.
Right,
so the Yoruba lady was actually sewn up totally.
Oh, God.
She's the only person I've ever met like that.
Wow, okay. That, just to hear that makes me feel extremely uncomfortable, let alone, being in that position. So, I know you said you've kind of come to terms with you being partially circumcised and all, but did you go through a whole period of, where you were not happy with yourself, or, you resented your parents for doing that to you or anything like that?
No, funny enough, I actually did not. Because growing up, sexually I was very sheltered. My mom was extreme, like, a lot of African Nigerian parents. My mom was very extreme about the whole sexuality thing. My mom was the kind of mother that would she told me, you get locked up in a room with a boy, you come out of that room pregnant. So for me, I did not even know that I was different.
Right.
From regular females. I got to know that I was different from porn. And I'm like, wait, maybe it's because Caucasian vaginas that just look different. Maybe, I'm Nigerian, I'm African, so maybe ours look the way mine looks. And then watching African American, I'm like, wait, they look the same like the white ladies look. And I was not sexually active until I was much older. But I realized with my partners, my early partners, and the first person then that really took time to actually look at me, I was like, wow, your vagina looks very, very different, very, very, pretty, but very different. And that started the self-consciousness, like, oh, okay, what makes a difference? And I asked my mom, do all vaginas look alike? And of course, she gave me the whole rigmarole about, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? What are they doing to you? How do you know something?
Of
So
course.
eventually, she had to come out and say, so I found out that I was
Sorry, I'm getting feedback from you.
What are you talking about? Who are you talking to? What are they doing to you? How do you know something?
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I think that was actually coming from me. Yes. No, that's fine. I think that was coming from the studio. Yes, it's been sorted out now. Please go ahead.
I didn't know per se what it was until I was probably 24, 25.
Right.
And then being sexually active, I needed to do my real woman check every year. And my first gynecology appointment for a pap smear, the nurse came back from there like, what happened to you down there?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I always had, took pleasure, or I still take pleasure in sharing the story of, oh yeah, I'm partially circumcised kind of thing. So for me, sexually is never really, I never thought negative because my mom didn't tell me it was for promiscuity reasons. It was just what it was. The ladies in their family got circumcised. It was later getting to know other people's stories that I'm like, oh wow, it did not work in my own case. I'm not saying I'm promiscuous, but it just did not work in my own case.
Right. Okay.
To reduce your sexual libido, it ain't happening. So that is my own thing. So I never really had like a negative attachment to it. For me, it's that's why I said it is beautifully, I accepted it. It became something that I'm unique with. Yeah. So.
Right. Okay. So these kind of cuts when they do it, like unlike with the men, when men, African men are circumcised, or most men, Jewish men and everything, it tends to either be a doctor or the rabbis or the specialized Jewish rabbis who do these things, because that's that's something that is actually very, very common and widely accepted, and it's not necessarily physically marrying to the men. So that's something that's actually very common. But with the female one in UK, it's actually legal to perform the surgery, perform the cut. But in Nigeria, I'll be surprised. It is illegal. Yes. To perform that cut, yeah. So doctors are not allowed to do it, and people that do it are actually arrested and prosecuted. Now, what I'd like to understand is, in perspective of Nigeria and probably some of these countries in Africa, who are the people that actually perform these cuts? I mean, I don't imagine they're doctors, or are they?
Which doctor? Was my grandmother.
No. Oh God, I'm feeling very I'm feeling very.
I'll tell you this. It was usually the older women in the family.
In the family.
An aunt, a grandmother, somebody in the family.
Yeah.
Usually,
does the cut.
Responsibility for that surgery. Does the cut. Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's not a very good visual. I've never experienced
I don't imagine it would
one
be.
or seen one take place.
Right. I don't think I'd want to see one. I think
I've heard stories. No, Jesus, no.
I'm trying to understand how that will go down. And I'd be interested to know if there's actually been any woman or girl that's died from that being done. Because I imagine people who are hemophiliacs and whatnot, that would not stop bleeding. I'm trying to understand how that would work in that instance, because most times you don't tend to know until something happens, and in those cases they will rush you to a hospital or something before they tend to find out. But if this is being done by someone who has, whose basic skill of cutting is to slice shaki into two, this is just something that is.
I will mute you guys for a second. I'm sorry, my emergency page just went up.
Okay. So in this instance, I'm trying to understand how that exactly would work, because I've heard that it's been said that like it's someone in the family, one of those older women or some village elder female or something like that would do this. But I don't know. I'm quite surprised. I'm trying to see if I can do some more research. Hi, Rachel. How you doing?
Hi, Dina.
Hi.
And we have to step away. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still kind of trying to understand if there's any way to find out if there's any statistics on girls or women that's died from the cuts happening.
Well, that one actually I've not even been able to. I've done a bit of research, and let me not say bit. I've done a lot ever since I found out I was circumcised about circumcision, and I've actually not been able to find information about like statistics. But I'm pretty sure that there have been, there have been possible deaths from bleeding because for the most part, no doctor does this. They didn't train people.
Yeah.
People do it, and they just cut off what they want to cut off.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not only about death from bleeding, it could be from infection.
Infection, yeah.
Using God knows what. That they've been using for 20 years and anything to do what they want to do. So we could have a lot of people who have died from infection that was not connected to this horrible act.
Of course. So when you found out, how did you react?
My reaction was pretty mild because I was in my mid-20s and it was really just in the course of conversation with my mom that I found out. We were talking about female genital mutilation and she said, oh yeah, obviously you're circumcised. I'm like, what? Yeah. Because remember, there's also the stereotype that everybody that's circumcised cannot enjoy sex and all of that. And bear in mind, this is Rachel we're talking about. I had a very active sex life and enjoy sex. The thing I would say about my circumcision is I had the very, what is considered a very mild form of circumcision.
Yeah.
The part of the clitoris was cut off and the foreskin was taken off. That's the kind of circumcision that was done. And probably that's one of the reasons why I never had any of the problems that many of them have. But in my research for female circumcision, what I found most interesting is, off the bat, we would think that it is the Northerners that practice this. We would think that it is because they're Muslims. But it is actually practiced for the most part in the Southwest.
Southwest, okay.
It was in the Southwest, in the Yoruba state. Actually, Osun State has about 80% of occurrence of female genital mutilation. The Northerners actually, they've got about 1 to 2%. It is anti-Islamic, it is anti-culture. Whereas when you come down to us in the Western states, we are supposed to be the educated, the enlightened ones. This is where you find female genital mutilation occurring, and it's going strong.
Right. Okay. So I know you said that you haven't had any side effects or disadvantages from actually being circumcised.
Well, I didn't know because I don't know.
True.
It's not like I had this was done when I was a baby.
Right.
So
okay.
I didn't know, and it's not like I had the opportunity to compare my genitals to that of other people. It's not so something, I was also brought up very sheltered, so it's not like I'm looking down there and trying to compare it and say, oh, what does it look like with the other person? Oh, no, I didn't have the opportunity. So it's only in recent years, it was actually after my mother told me that that, I started to take a picture. Okay, let's see what it looks like. And then look on the internet. I'm like, oh, okay, it's different. It's not exactly the same. I will say my husband did mention that when, very early, but I thought the man was just crazy and he didn't know what he was doing because
All right. Right. Okay. Right. So, but there have been side effects, though. There have been, especially when you come to maybe possibly the extreme ones. It's highly possible that they are then, they suffer a lot more. That it could just be that they have they don't enjoy sex, or just bladder infections and things like that. Because one of the ones that Moby mentioned, one of the types of circumcision that Moby mentioned, which is that the women are cut completely and then sewn up to leave only a very tiny hole. I cannot imagine that is something that any woman would then be able to enjoy sex or even trying to have a baby.
When you talk about it, and most of the you were talking about, is it opened up for them to have sex? No, it's not opened up for them to have sex. No. And it's not. That's what makes the episiotomies and increased C-section. And there's a lot of complications. So it's not like you're coming back years later and saying, oh, you're married, let's just get up.
Yeah. Okay. So have you, Moby, in the people that you've met and spoken to, have you met anyone who's actually maybe said, okay, this has caused a problem for them when they're trying to have babies, or if they have recurring bladder infection or things like that, or even if they've not been able to get, I don't actually imagine that it would affect them getting pregnant, but you never know.
Well, the lady that opened up about her situation, she had mentioned that her first sexual experience was one from hell.
Really?
Because, number one, the guy she did not know, just like most African women do not know that they are circumcised. She did not know. Growing up, she had a lot of UTIs, a lot of infections. You can imagine the vagina being thrown up and your pee pulling up under that vulvar skin.
Yeah.
My medical knowledge is very rudimentary, but at the same time, I will try to explain and, put it out there as much as possible for people to get it. But you can imagine your little vulvar skin that's left over, sewn up, and just a little hole. And usually the hole is never placed in the right place. I like what Inkuru said about taking a picture down there, taking a mirror down there, and taking pictures and seeing what you actually look like. A lot of us women growing up did not have that knowledge. Like, we did not get familiar with our bodies, and that's why a lot of us did not know what we look like, or did not look like in comparison to somebody else. And for the most part, people don't understand that the vagina, the vulva, is different for every woman. Where your vagina opening is might be totally different from where somebody else's vagina opening is. It might just be a few inches, and at the same time, okay, there's a feedback.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting feedback from someone. 1 second, I'm just going to mute a couple of people. Right, okay, I think... Yeah, go on, Moby.
Okay, the vagina opening and the urethra, I keep not pronouncing the word right, but your pee hole, exactly.
Yeah.
They're two different places, and the distance, people don't really know the difference and the distances. And imagine they sew up your vulva all together. And they put the opening either way too high or too low, far away from the urethra, from the pee hole itself. Now, you can imagine the amount of pee that will pull under that skin that's been, covered and being sewn up. So this girlfriend of mine had a bunch of infection growing up. A lot. She was in and out of the hospital. Now, that was the thing that she went through. Now, sexually at the same time, the first sexual experience was the worst thing, like I said, because the guy did not know, she did not know why it was so. He basically forced himself through her to tear her open. It wasn't a one-time thing. They tried a bunch of times. And in her mind, she thought he was breaking her hymen. He thought he was breaking her hymen as well.
Not knowing he was ripping her apart.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we've
and for childbirth, like Icarus said, episiotomy and all of that, tears, it became terrible. After the childbirth, she had infection.
right. Sorry, I think Inkiru is the one that is actually echoing. We have another caller on the line. I think I know who this is. Ending 9952. Hello. Hi. Hello, Dolapo. How's it going?
Hello,
Good.
the man with the voice.
The man with the voice. Right. Sorry. Yeah, you.
I should be calling you known anyway.
Yeah. You joined at an opportune time. Sorry.
Well, I wasn't sure if I shouldn't have any comment on this topic. I mean, I have zero knowledge. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's see if we can. I'm sure we can. We have stuff that we can ask you to speak about the lap, so never mind. So Moby, you were saying about when they're having children. So in childbirth, what kind of complications do they face as well?
For one, apparently the whatever it was, the little that she could share with me, she had excessive tears.
Wow. Okay.
What's the right terminology, medical terminology for that? Episiotomy or whatever. She had excessive tears when it came to childbirth, and during labor, she labored for 26 hours, she told me. She labored for 26 hours, it was horrendous, and at the end of the day, the baby was stuck in between. They had to do like an emergency surgery to save her and baby.
Oh, wow. And did the doctors...
Thank goodness.
Did the doctors identify that this was because she was circumcised?
Not at that moment. They did not know at that moment. It was after everything was done, after everybody was out in the clear, that she now mentioned it casually, and her mom was like, "Oh, really?" Because she had fought with her mom for years for allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
So when she mentioned it casually, and the doctor was like, "Oh, I wish we had that information ahead of your labor."
Really?
It was at that point that herself and her mom made up, yeah. Because her mom was, I like what, I hope I'm not mixing names. I think, oh shoot, I'm going to have to mute you guys, I'm sorry.
Sorry, no problem. Okay, I think my probably Moby's she's on call or something, so yeah, she keeps getting paged away. Rachel, something that I thought about when you were having your kids, did your doctors at any point in time actually make any comments about, that's slightly different down there, are you aware of this? Did something happen to you? No?
No, they did not. And something that as Moby was speaking, I actually just recollect, because when I had my first kid, she talked about someone being in labor for 26 hours. I was in labor for more than 48 hours. So, when I talked about complications, and I said I probably have not had any complications, this was not something I had actually thought about in the past, that this could have been as a result of the circumcision. Because I was in labor for about more than 48 hours that I can remember. Childbirth, my first childbirth experience was something so traumatic that I actually blocked it out of my head.
Wow.
And I remember going into the hospital on a Sunday night. I remember that we had a C-section Thursday morning, and that was because the baby was in distress. So that was really a rough one. And thinking about it, it could really be related to circumcision, the fact that I was circumcised. At the time, I did not know I was circumcised.
Right, okay.
I didn't find out I was circumcised until after I'd had all my kids, actually. I'd had all kids before I even found out I was circumcised.
Right, okay.
So the doctors they never mentioned anything about it, being different down there. That wasn't even a question or any conversation that we had. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because they're not familiar with it or they have seen it enough times to know that, okay, she's circumcised and the fact that I'm from Nigeria. But it wasn't ever a conversation that we had.
Right, okay. So, something that I'd actually be interested to know, this is actually for Dolakbo, because when Moby was talking, she was talking about, one of the women that she knows that had been circumcised. Her first sexual experience was, extremely painful, and both the girl and the guy thought that it was just that difficult because he was trying to break her hymen, only to find out later that's not the case. Is that something that you think has it ever occurred to you, or do you know of any women that has been circumcised? Have you ever been privileged to be with any women that has been, and how did you deal with it?
I don't think that is a conversation you enter into with someone of the opposite sex to start with. I mean, it's not. I don't even know that. To be honest, what does a circumcised, look like versus the uncircumcised one? I don't know. I mean, and I can remember growing up that when it wasn't something that even crept into our thought in any shape or form. Now, it's different from the male circumcision. I mean, I went to boarding school. You could pretty much see everybody, and you can tell who was and who was not. It was something you can tell within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just tighten it. But for a female, I mean, it's never occurred to me to even ask. I mean, especially when you're already getting into that particular mood or whatever, to be asking that question is asking to go in a different direction. Where you going?
Right. Okay. But okay, so it's not something that's ever occurred to you in respect to the female, at all. But obviously with the men, boys, in boarding school or sharing locker rooms and whatnot, immediately. But you've never actually thought about it ever when it comes to the female.
No, in fact that women actually or female actually go through that was something that I think I became more aware of probably I'll say maybe almost 20 years ago.
Right. Okay.
It wasn't something that we knew. So it's, I mean, even for men's circumcision, the argument is okay, is it beneficial or not? We know the religious aspect of it. But for women, with everything that's coming out, I say that it does way more harm than almost no good.
Right. Okay.
I guess now when the man is having his, I mean, when you're having your first experience, for God's sake, your first experience with the opposite sex is always very, very clumsy. Because you absolutely have no idea what the hell you're doing.
Right. Okay. So
I'm sorry, I can't provide.
no. That's absolutely fine. I'm actually quite curious though. So, is this something that is cultural versus religious? Because I'm Muslim, and I'm Muslim, and I'm also Yoruba, but I was never circumcised. In fact, to be honest, if I ever have been, I don't think I would know. But I've compared enough. I've looked in the mirror and compared enough with what the average woman looks like out there to know that I'm not. I'll be interested to ask my mother, but I don't think that's the case from where we come from. Now, I know we didn't do it because we didn't do it. They didn't do it for me, either because we're not, we're Muslims, but it never happened. So they didn't do it because I'm Yoruba. So I'm still trying to understand: is it something that is cultural or is it religious? And if it is cultural, what cultures? Sorry?
It's definitely not religious.
Okay.
I think it's cultural, really.
It is cultural because this predates religion.
Right.
Right. Okay. So it is cultural.
It's more religious than anything, but with female, I think it's more cultural, and I think it's done even probably within the Yoruba tribe. But then the more removed you are from that village conk Yoruba tradition, then the less likely that you will have that done around you or somebody that you know. I mean, it's the same thing you probably perceive as, say, having tribal marks.
Right. Okay. True. Well, I don't have tribal marks either, so although some parts of our culture probably does. So this is the other thing. So which cultures actually do this? I know it's some parts of Yoruba, but I'm Yoruba, and we don't. I don't believe we do it where I come from, because I wasn't, and I don't believe my mother was either. Neither are any of my female cousins. So we don't do it in my part of Yoruba land. So I'll be interested to know which parts actually do this.
I can actually take this one on to you. It's like I said earlier, the southwest part of Nigeria is really more predominant. And I actually looked up the statistic 2 days ago. Ocean State had a 76.3 prevalence in terms of circumcision, followed by Ekiti, which was 71.2, or your state is 69.7. Then you have Ebonyi, which is about 55%. Even Lagos has a prevalence rate of 44.8 in terms of human circumcision.
Right, okay. Well, that is still...
So the law, it was very interesting to see because off the bat, we tend to think that most of the practices occur so far away from us in the north.
Yeah.
The north has an incidence of less than 1%. It's not, and the Fulani do not do this at all. The Fulani do not circumcise their children.
Yeah, okay. So it is the Yorubas that tend to do it. Now, okay, so this is the other thing is if it's cultural, what I'm trying to understand is why a culture kind of would decide that to do they don't want women to put. I don't even understand. I'm sorry, this is something that's just personal. Let me just move on to a proper separate conversation question altogether. Okay, so knowing what you know right now, this is for both Rachel, Moby, and also Dolapo. Knowing what you know right now, would you circumcise your girl child?
That's a dicey question. Okay, Rachel, sorry. You can go ahead, sorry.
It's Rachel. Yeah.
Oh, Rachel, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said no, absolutely not. And part of the reason is my circumcision. When I spoke to my mom and I asked her why was I circumcised, it was just because, not just because. The truth was my mom was not involved in the whole grandparents who did that.
Really?
They took it on themselves to do it. I am one of my siblings without the tribal mark, and it was again because I was not home with my grandparents at the time, so there wasn't any thought process into this circumcision. It was cultural, and so it happened. Would I subject my child to that? Absolutely not.
Right.
That makes sense. I think for me, it might be a little different. Hear me out for a second.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with culture. It has nothing to do with promiscuity or lack of promiscuity. It has nothing to do with discipline or anything like that. Now, my caveat for probably, it's like 1% possible, just 1% possible of having that done to my child is if it is medically acceptable. Like you said, in the UK, it's illegal. Something in the States here, it is illegal. If it is medically acceptable, meaning, the doctors can perform it. And if that is the case, if the doctor can give my daughter an exact kind of circumcision that I got, with exact nerve endings being destroyed and the rest that are left, things like that. Because I would tell you, Rachel talked about it not affected her negatively, because she also found out like my similar history. When I found out what it was, I took advantage of what it was for me in my relations.
Right.
Now,
in what sense?
I'm very unashamed about it because I talk about it a lot, and it's part of the awareness. The last time I mentioned, people don't really know. He did not really know until the last 20 years. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, just to create more awareness about female genital mutilation. First, I took advantage of it because mine was just minor, extreme minor, meaning that just my clitoral hood was taken off, exposing my clitoris altogether. Now, that made for me my whole, I'm uber sensitive.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that actually heightens your sexual experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
It does aid. And that is my reasoning for saying if it is legal, if my daughter wants it, I'm not just going to put it on her. A lot of it happened as, your parents were not there, like Rachel has said. Your parents were not there, your grandparents were not there. So maybe you were lucky enough to not go through that, or rather unfavored enough to go through it. So if my child could have a choice of, okay, you know what, for me personally, I enjoy my sexuality with my circumcision. Extremely enjoy my sexuality with my circumcision. Now, would I want my child to enjoy such? It might be selfish in the sense that, my man enjoyed kidney, your mother enjoyed this thing based on this reason. It was a faulty reason from the get-go. But if you want the same or better, you might go for it. But I would also piggyback on Rachel and say no, for cultural reasons, for religious reasons, for whatever stupid reasons. No, if it is not bringing you pleasure, no.
Right. Okay. So, Dolapo, what about you? Would you for your girls? I'm sure I already know what the answer is.
Well, my girls are 19, so nothing like that ever happened to them. Damn, if you give them an injection, even in my presence, without me knocking you out. So.
Okay. Right. That kind of leads me to the next question, and this is just purely. So, what if your daughters, they're little babies, and you go out and their grandparents or some grand auntie or something like that goes to go and do this to your child? What would you do?
We shall be having a burial party soon.
Oh God.
That's from serious relationship.
Because rest of your school, just to take it, I should be very soon.
Because there have been people whose parents actually took them out to do what they call the tribal marks, who grandparents or the family elder, while you're out for the day, goes to go and do the tribal marks for your baby.
People need to learn your boundaries. If I'm leaving my kid with you, you watch the kid, you change the diapers, make sure they're fed, they're clothed, and it doesn't go beyond that. All right, so that's what we might have to be digging and go to see where I should be,
Well, I don't know why somebody would think it's their right to take somebody else's child. And I emphasize somebody else's child because I don't care how close you are to a relative in your child. You're not the woman that carried the pregnancy. You're not the man that stayed with the woman because you got her pregnant and was making sure she was okay. So why would you now think that you have the right to either go ahead and cut off something down there or put tribal marks?
Well, you know that Nigerian people in general, especially Nigerian uncles and aunties, they have they don't understand boundaries, pretty much.
Well, I understand that. You know what? I remember when my twins were still babies in diapers, and I had to be carrying them about with their car seats, moving up and down. And my wife would be working, and I had to just drop them off at the babysitter who happened to be Nigerian too, with their big diaper bag and everything. And there was a day I came back and picked them up, and for some reason, one of them felt heavy. So I thought, okay, diaper is full again. Okay. At that point, I was already a pro. I can change diaper one-handed, blindfolded. Don't worry. Except when I opened up the place, it was no diaper, it was nappy.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I know how many I put in the bag, and they can't possibly have used that much. Except that she had two other babies she was caring for, and she used my girl's diapers for them. Now, when it was their turn, now she not put oh boy. I lit up her ass so bad.
I'm not surprised.
I think it was all the diaper rash and everything. Like, why would you do that?
Right. Okay. So this is the thing about that's something that's very common with Nigerian people, is that they are very I don't know how it is that they learn not to respect boundaries, but they don't. Just as easily as they can be telling you, how to live your life, what age you should have children, how many children you should have, how you should be having, how you can't just have all boys, you need to give birth to a girl as well, even though you have 4 boys already, acting like they'll be raising your children for you and telling you need to have 7 children or something like that. This is something that's very common with, Nigerian families. They don't understand boundaries. So I won't be surprised with something like this happening, where they think, well, there's nothing big in it. I did this when I was growing up. My parents did it when I was growing up. So to them, they think this is something that is absolutely acceptable.
Can I say something here at this point? Whatever informed our forefathers to start snipping women's, I'm sorry, I can't keep saying the word because I'm at work. Whatever informed them at that point in time when they started practicing those things, it must have sounded like a very right, very good choice to make, like a right thing to do. What I have a problem now is with the West. Rather than saying, okay, we've done research and this is wrong or this has zero benefits, rather than saying that, they are including also the fact that they're demonizing this practice. And when you start demonizing someone within two certain things, rather than they listen to you, they climb up and shut you out. We need more of an education as to tell these people in the rural areas why you can't do this, as opposed to telling them that they're barbaric or whatever. Something informed their choice when they started, just like tribal marks. When people started having tribal marks, I don't know the history, but I can really imagine that it probably started with a lot of intertribal wars and slavery and everything, that people started saying, we need to mark our own people so that we know them when we see them.
That's what it was actually. It's self-identification.
Right, okay.
It's clan identification.
Really? Okay. So this
doesn't make sense today anymore, but there was a reason why it was done then. So it's the same way that needs to be applied to this female FGM, so that people can now understand that, culture has evolved. There is no need for doing this. As opposed to saying, in South African people, they're very pushed, they're gay, they're demonic, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, but it does. So isn't it partly because people don't actually know the reason why we started doing it in the first place?
Sometimes when something has been done in the culture for generations, believe me, the reason why it started with the law.
It is law.
Yeah.
It is law.
So it just becomes something. Why do we do it? Just say, well, because we do. It is our culture.
Yeah, and again, this is what I'm trying to say, is that people do not know the reason why these things have been done for the last whatever generations or so. So as far as they're concerned, it's how we've always done things. It all comes down to, and this is something that's actually coming across, every race, every group of people, is that they tend to just try and follow culture or follow what it is that their parents have taught them, because they feel a sense of, okay, well, this is how it's always been done, and people are very reluctant to change. Again, that's it. People are very reluctant to change, and not doing something it's very difficult for them to understand why they shouldn't do it, especially if they don't know why they used to do it in the first place. A good example was this kind of sage story that went around about how when this woman cooks lamb, whenever she's cooking the lamb shank, the leg of a lamb, what she'll do is she will cut the end of the leg of the lamb, and put it in the roasting tray, season and everything, and roast it. And when her daughter was asking her, they were in the kitchen, her daughter saw her do it a few times. So her daughter was asking her that, why do you cut off the end of the leg of the lamb? Well, what's the purpose of that when you're cooking? And the woman was like, well, I don't know. This is how my mother has always done it. So one day she asked her mother why she did it. And that one was like, well, I don't know, actually. This is how my mother has always done it. And she asked her mother, who then finally told her that, well, yeah, the reason I used to cut it is because, I had a very small roasting pan, and the lamb leg never used to fit into the roasting pan. So I will cut the bony end off so that I can fit it into the roasting pan and it can cook. And you kind of just think 3 generations, or rather 2 generations down, they're still doing this thing of cutting down the end without realizing exactly why they started it.
Let me come in here a little bit.
Yeah, Rachel.
Let me come in a little bit. We have a variety of reasons why this is done. I think today, because, especially in Nigeria, I don't know about other parts of Africa, we've gotten to a point where, women are really coming out from the shadows. One of the big reasons it was done was to prevent promiscuity, because the idea was that if this is not done, the woman becomes promiscuous. For some people, it is a rite of passage, to become a woman. This is what makes you a woman. And
that is, I think, I'm sorry, Rachel, I heard that from somebody from the Midwest, Benin area, mid central. I don't know my region, so part of me. But like the Benin Kingdom, I had this couple friends that they were circumcised as teenagers, meaning they were very conscious of that, and it was their right to passage. I didn't have to keep that because it reminded me of that.
Wow. Okay. So
we do know why this happened, but I think where we are now as a country, it's a very simple thing to embrace, to say you're doing this to stop from promiscuity. A lot of people are very aware about this pro-woman movement, and so that issue is not talked about. We cover it up by saying it's our culture. But what is the culture rooted in? The culture was rooted in controlling the woman and keeping her down. That's what it really and truly is rooted in.
Well, one of the reasons given on Google as to why this is actually done is to ensure virginity before marriage and fidelity afterward, and to increase male sexual pleasure. Now, Rachel, you're quite right when you're saying it is basically to control the woman. It's to make sure that she doesn't enjoy sex. It's to make sure that she remains a virgin until she marries, so that her husband can get a virgin, but then also so that her husband can actually enjoy sex with her. So, this is there's nothing in there that actually says this is a health reason. For men, we can understand sometimes, what they tend to say is for hygiene, and some of it is really just in the fact that you need to take off that foreskin for whatever other reason. I don't know whatever reason they give, but I can understand that for the men parts, because I cannot imagine how easy it is for them to be cleaning if they have all of that hangover that happens, especially when you go to the toilet. I don't know how you're going to keep that kind of stuff clean. It probably would just end up in very little men, none of the men getting blowjobs and whatnot, because it would not be a pretty place to, for a woman to have a face near. But that's a different matter altogether. We understand why they do it for men, and that there is benefits. And
You should have seen my eyebrows raise up at that description.
Dude.
Very careful not to use the washroom. So, whether it's caught or not caught, the point is you will take care of what is yours, because without that, life can become very, very boring.
Um,
Well, it's I think that's the number of men that would kind of do that, that would be very extra careful, in when they go to the bathroom, is that's just something that comes with a certain level of not just maturity, but then also it won't happen in the case for most men. Even with all the hygienic products and lessons that they give you and everything, there's still some people, not just men, women as well, that you just sort of think, wow, okay, whatever is perceiving from your body, especially the nether region of your body, let's say, you know this is soap, this is water, go and wash on a regular basis. So, but the key thing there is there isn't is negative, there isn't anything specifically negative from men being circumcised.
Other than it's painful.
Well, other than it's painful, yes, it's momentary pain, and then it's gone. It's not like it's then painful.
Thank you for minimizing the pain.
No, with the women as well. With some of the women's one, it might be momentary pain, depending on which type of FGM they do for you. But there's some FGMs that they do that the woman never stops hurting. All she needs to do is think about pain, and she's hurting. So this is what I'm trying to say is that when you compare it with the women, there is absolutely no benefit or almost zero benefit for the woman, in comparison to when it's done for men. That's just what I'm saying.
And for most men, this is done when they either are birth or they're 8 days old, they're really babies. For
You know what? No,
many of
no. That is partially true. It's done at
I find that for most,
when
not all
you're
of
very
them.
young. No, I wouldn't even subscribe to most because it's only done for those that do it for religious reasons, and that being the Judaic or the Christian faith, really.
No.
Those that do it for cultural reasons, you have cultures all over that African continent where by the time you're around 18, that's when you come out and you're coming of age, and that includes circumcision. And I can
No, do you know what? But the difference as well is the men's one, because it is actually widely accepted. It tends to be done by doctors and professionals, except for maybe the one that is done purely for cultural celebration and he's now a man kind of thing. Which, to be honest, I don't know how often that actually happens nowadays. The thing is here, it's
if you start looking at, and I could be wrong about the names of the cultures, like maybe the Zulus or whatever, somewhere around that they do that where they come out and they start beating each other with big sticks at the age of 18 when you're ready to go through that. And the moment you're done with that now, if somebody's ready to help you slice at that age. In fact, maybe that is just done to even keep them in life for another 2 years so that they can help their father then they can.
no, it means that they are now men they can marry. It means they are now men they can now marry, choose a wife, that kind of nonsense.
Exactly. But can you imagine that you have that done to you, that you'll be thinking about the wife next week? I'm sorry. My mother for 3 years.
There's a story, a Bible story about what's his name? Is it Joseph? Joseph, yeah, Joseph was the one that gave birth to Jacob, of the one that could see, or is it Is it the other way around? The one that that could see, that was a seer. Yeah, so Jacob gave birth to Joseph, that was a seer. So Joseph's only daughter, when she married, apparently as part of the bridal price, the men, or the people of the men that she married into, because they were not of the same faith or the same culture, all of their men had to be circumcised. And it was said to be extremely painful, that all of the men in the city that day was down because they all had their manhood cut. So apparently for days on end they were quite ill and everything like that. And there's a lot more to the story, but this is not Bible story time, so I'll leave it at that.
But that also puts in perspective what the woman has to deal with, because the conversation for women is really much more than taking up the court case. And taking up the court case for a man as an adult is painful. Now, when you are talking about cutting off the clitoris and sewing off the labia and all of that, you can imagine the pain.
Yeah.
That either the pain that the child has to deal with at that time, or the teenager.
Yeah.
There's a lifelong.
Just thinking about it is making me squeamish.
What are they sewing? What are they sewing up again?
Oh, sorry, there are 4 types of female circumcision. And the first one,
Moby, explain it to us.
They cut off the entire, or they peel off the skin over the clitoris. That's the one that's good. That's loud. That's what I have. In the second one, Moby, help me out here. In the second one, they cut it off completely. They are not sewing in the second one.
They cut off the clitoris. Okay, the first one, you're correct, Rachel. The first one, they cut off the clitoral hood, just the skin, the foreskin over the clitoris. The second one, they cut off the clitoris and the clitoral hood. They scrape whatever is left of the clitoris. Now, the third one, they cut off the clitoral hood, the clitoris, they do the scraping, and they cut the labial lips. And then the fourth kind is the description that they just started with. They cut everything off, whatever skin is left. Some keep it, some cut everything off. Whatever skin is left, they actually sew all that up and just leave a tiny hole for pee.
So what is there left for those people that, and I'm not speaking from you, but some other people that like to muff dive?
That is the whole idea. None of that is happening.
Okay. Now that
science lecture is just one-sided.
In fact, now I'm even way more sympathetic than I thought I could be.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when you talk about, female genital mutilation, the first one, which is what a lot of people have, is what I have. It's not really, it's not right, it's not fair, it's not good. But the complications are, either you see it or you don't see it. So when you start to go into number 2, number 3, number 4, you are harming people for life. You're scarring.
Yeah, you scarred them completely.
So, I'm not sure we can really figure out exactly why this was being done, because reading it online, it's tainted with a lot of Western views.
I think we kind of hammered on why it was being done. It's control. That's what it is. It's just
because there hasn't been.
The woman is a property from your father's home. You're property. You're not a human being.
Yeah.
You're property. You're something that we have to control, even as your parents, as generational aunties, grandparents, and all of that. And then moving you over to your man's house, it's still control. Now the man gets to tear that if it's a stage 4 kind of circumcision. The man gets to tear through it. The man owns you because you definitely bled out of that first floor entry. You definitely will bleed. And then you, as a woman, you sit there feeling like, oh, it's only my man that has been there. It's only him there. Remember, the things are cultural. They have nothing to do with religion. It's all cultural.
Yeah.
And it is just the control effect of it.
With all of that pain that you're getting, it's not going to cross your mind to go through that with another person.
Exactly.
Go try this.
Yeah,
you go try this with someone else who has a bigger feeling. Like, come on, just think about it. You are not going to think about it.
You barely survived the first one. You're not going to be trying it again.
Manage myself. It can help you. You have a man who has no idea how a woman's body functions. Who believes that the tighter it is, the more pleasure I get. See how it increases people's pleasure. He doesn't care about the woman.
Yeah, but that's part of the reason they do it as well, is that it increases the man's pleasure because it's now extremely tight. It's a tiny hole.
Coming from a man, I understand the control argument, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is there is a reason. What is the
But that wouldn't have made a difference, though. The woman can still be taken and kidnapped. In fact, the woman would probably be more attractive for them to kidnap, because they will know that because this culture practices this girl is still going to be a virgin. That would be a lot more attractive to them.
I don't get the sense that it was about kidnap. I mean, if I could answer the guess, maybe there was a time our great grandmothers attempted to be in control of themselves and pick whatever man they wanted. I think it's geared more to the woman not being able to be
independent,
so the amorous or whatever it is. You were stuck with one man. Because every woman is like me, I enjoy sex and I can hop into bed with any man. That's the idea. To minimize promiscuity. To ensure
because you see, when a society evolves, it evolves more towards the need of that society. As strange as it may sound to some people, we have very few cultures, but they do exist, where a woman has multiple husbands, polyandry.
Yes.
They do exist. So, could that have been because the men were so lazy and not strong as the women? Maybe not. Or maybe there was just a dying population at some point in time of men. Where, I'm not sure if I'm getting my numbers twisted now. Or maybe there was just a big explosion of men around, but there were not that many women around or whatever. So sometimes things happen because of a particular thing that happened within the society. That's what them to think about. How do we deal with this problem? And sometimes they do come up with very archaic and very stupid solutions to it. Does not mean that there was not such an issue that they were dealing with and they wanted to solve. Like I said earlier, the solution to dealing with this today is not to demonize them, because demonizing only is educate them. Demonizing will only make certain people become totally defensive. And maybe when that one or two generation dies, or maybe that will eventually die out. But we want a solution today. We don't want a solution when two generations dies off now. So we need to find a way to solve it.
Yes, of course.
If I could just, sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a lovely conversation, but I really have to run. But if I could jump on Delabra's statement, I believe in educating. I believe in creating awareness. And the more we talk about this, the more we make noise about it. Like you said, it would not just die off with this generation being aware of it. It will be a continual thing. If we can tag it to medical science, to technology, to what we have going on right now, and educating the populace, educating the Nigerian youth right now, what this is, what it's not, what are the pros, what are the cons, and we make as much noise as possible, I can look into the future and see 5-10 generations from now that female genital mutilation is totally abolished. As we stand right now, over 200 million women in the world globally, Indians, East Africans, Nigerians, a bunch of other cultures, even in the United States. If you guys search into female genital mutilation, a well-proclaimed medical doctor was recently arrested as of March this year.
Yeah.
Her case was in court back then. I didn't follow the story, but I mean that's to let people know how much people, the society is trying to abolish this this thing called female genital mutilation. We've said it. It doesn't do anything medically for the woman. It doesn't help in any way. It destroys mentally. It's a good thing that Rachel and I can talk about it today. But imagine somebody that knew from a young age that they were mutilated. Imagine the psychological, the PTSD they have to deal with. Imagine their fear, their rigidity in sex. Imagine them not enjoying their relations. But if we can keep having this conversation and educating people about it, I'm glad that, like the Lapo said, for me that was like a light bulb moment. Even men do not know the difference.
In saying that, maybe. Sorry to interrupt you, Mobi. In saying that, do you actually tell, when you knew, when you were growing up, when you found out, do you actually share this with a man and say, okay, I'm actually circumcised?
It's always, once my friendship and my relationship, I chuckled when the lap was saying, "Oh, that's not a conversation you want to have with the opposite sex," because that's actually the opposite for me. Every person that I talk to with the potential of dating, every man that I talk to, that is one of the first things I put on the table. I am partially circumcised.
When I say I don't want to discuss it, it's not like I'm knocking it, but I'm just going like, okay, so what do I see after that revelation?
No, I get it. That's why I said I chuckled. No, that's why I said I chuckled, because I got it. I understood what you meant. No, I didn't think you were knocking it. I can understand the ambiguity of that conversation. Like, okay, what am I going to do with this now? How does it work? No, I get it, totally. But that is why I would always talk about it. Personally, or me, I talk about it all the time. I would tell females, I would tell males about it. Now, this is what it is. Don't be scared. I don't look like an alien down there.
Right.
But there's a difference. We can look at pictures online. Now, when the blessed moment comes, when we now share that time together, you can behold it by yourself. But that conversation definitely happened.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's
thank you guys. I gotta go.
All right. Bye, Moby. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Bye. Rachel, so did you actually, you said you didn't actually know, so I'm sure you never actually experienced the point of discussing this with your husband?
No, but like I said, I know you did mention it one time, but I actually did not pay attention to things when he said that. Just went over my head. So when my mom actually confirmed, she told me, I'm like, so she was the next person I told her, she's like, I told you. I'm like, it really never affected our business. Because I don't know what sex would have been like if I was not circumcised. This is the only
True.
thing I know, so it didn't work for me, I am fine. And I definitely agree with that. And that's what, when the doctor talks about stigmatizing or just, one thing that bothers me as we try to change and make adjustments in our society, there seems to be this feeling that we will always sit down on everything that was done in the past. That was then. This is now. And which is why, I think it was more people mentioned someone who was very upset with my mother or whatever. Why am I going to fight my mother? For what?
But this was the woman that had the fourth version, the one that, no, not the sewn up one. Yeah.
And I actually don't think I would have felt differently.
More out of love.
And I don't think I would have felt differently if it had the worst one done to me. Because when I think about it, that my mom has no control over whether I was circumcised or not. What could she have done? What could she have done to stop it? Basically, my mom came home and her child was circumcised.
Yikes.
So why am I going to pick her up over that? But what I can do is not to portray that with my daughters and have conversations with people. Going back and being angry and being busy, and I don't know if I'm putting myself in the pedestal, it doesn't change anything. But knowing can make a difference. Knowing can make a difference. Now that I know, I do not always have an orgasm when I have sex. Could that be responsible for that? Maybe. My husband knows that he does have to sometimes put in a lot more effort with oral sex. And, you empower yourself. You use that knowledge. And we really need to get to that point in our society where we use our knowledge for good and as opposed to being angry and saying you did that to me, you push people and all that stuff. That doesn't change anything.
Okay. I can understand that. And I suppose, it really depends on how that's impacted, your life. If it's like, one of the women that Moby described, where, she spends, her years having, several UTIs and everything, and, her first time was extremely painful and all of that stuff. As much as, maybe her mother might not have had, control over whether her child was circumcised per se. In fact, that it happened while she wasn't there. There's still going to be that thing of, why didn't you protect me? Children will always have that feeling towards their parents, and you're my parent, you brought me into this world. Why couldn't you have protected me?
That is coming from the media where they're being told that, when this is done to a girl, it's done out of malice, it's done out of of hatred.
No, it doesn't have to be done out of malice.
No, I do have to agree with your last one, Dave. I think those are feelings that are, for some people, not everybody, but while that's really maybe legitimate for many, because understand that many people are finding out, for people that are finding out as adults. Now, we're talking at a point where someone is 18, 19, and your parents is actually forcing you and holding you down. That is a legitimate feeling. But you're going to find it out at 20 years, 29, and you did not know for all these years. Where is the anger coming from? I just talked about my first childbirth. The truth is, I did not have my first childbirth because it was a very horrible experience. And for so long, until when Moby was talking, I never actually connected to the possibility that this might have been because I was circumcised. It was a horrible experience.
Yeah.
So when people talk about childbirth, I never bring mine up because I'm like, you never want to hear what I went through. Still, it doesn't change how I feel, and I don't think it would have changed how I felt. Again, I found out as an adult. I wasn't some teenager who was held down. Now, people who experience that, because of the difference is in Nigeria, most of our circumcisions occur before the child is born. So it is not very common that they are teenagers and they're grown.
Yeah.
But we have other African countries and other countries where you actually have people holding and crying down.
Yeah, young girls. Yeah.
That is as traumatizing as it can be.
Yeah, there's some cultures that they do it as a passage rites for the girls. So essentially, you're not they're not doing it when you're a baby, when you haven't felt it, or when you haven't been conscious to feel the pain. They do it when you're conscious enough and you're old enough. Some from like 8 years old or so.
You have parents who will trick their kids who live in the Western world and will trick their kids and say, "Oh, we're going for vacation." Oh yeah, if your child is going to be bigger, you have to do that absolutely. Or it's the case of the Detroit doctor that Morgan was talking about.
Yeah.
I think some of that response is guided by the media. Some of it is guided by the media.
Of course. I think some of that is guided by the media and the fact that it's painted as something that's completely evil. And do you know what? I can kind of understand that. So granted, we've from what you and Moby have said, you've been able to. You never went through a period of, oh, this was done to me, or I'm going through this because that was done to me and everything. You never got to associate the fact that you were circumcised with whatever pain you were going through, whereas some women actually did. Women that had UTIs and non-stop bleeding, the very first time they had sex, various things like that, have been able to associate this with that. And regardless of however the society or media tells you to respond, sometimes when you're in pain, all you can see is the fact that this, what you're going through could have been avoided. The pain you're feeling could have been avoided. You didn't have to go through this if maybe your parents didn't allow this to be done to you, or your culture didn't dictate that this was done to you. Especially, so it's different if it was the fact that, okay, they're saying, okay, this was a premature baby, we need to cut this part so that this baby can survive, or so that they can have a partially decent life, or this needs to happen because of this and that. It's something that is seen to be done. You can't point to a very good reason, especially when you're going through a painful period. You cannot point to a very good reason why that was done to you, or why. I can definitely imagine there'll be people who will be very resentful, who maybe are actually justified with being angry with their parents, not necessarily because their parents meant it maliciously. You don't have to mean something maliciously before you actually hurt someone. So you don't have to have malice behind it. You still hurt them all the same. You still made their life extremely difficult. And if they themselves cannot see why that can be justified, like, okay, well, you needed to save my life, or you just did it because you were trying to keep my virginity until I'm a baby. Why are we worrying about whether my virginity is kept until I marry someone? That kind of stuff. At that point, you're kind of just thinking, so how does this help anybody? Whereas you're now having to be split open with a knife so that you can have a baby, and that's even if they know. So it's just things like that. I can understand people feeling resentful, feeling angry, but there's also the part that is played in social media, and on the news, and by society in general. There was a doctor that was arrested. I can't remember if it's earlier this year or late last year, who was arrested for actually performing FGM surgeries on women, and this wasn't. They weren't legal. They were illegal. This was something they did, like backdoor surgery, but he was a practicing doctor as well. So there's a reason why it's made illegal. It's very difficult to give a good reason why this needs to happen. Whether you're doing it as when they're a baby or whether you're doing it when they, as a rite of passage, it's very difficult to point out this is why we're doing it. And again, it comes down to what Dolapo was saying: is people do need to be educated. You can't always be bashing them over the head and saying this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. They need to be educated. They need to understand that the disadvantages far outweigh whatever cultural benefits there might be for it. So that's just my part in it. So I know that you said, Rachel, when you found out, I suppose at that point, because you were already married, you'd had your children, you didn't feel like it was maybe a thing of shame or pride for you. It would be I'd be interested to know if this is something that, if someone came to tell you. So Dolapo, imagine now if the missus, then told you before you got married that actually, I'm circumcised. Do you think you'd have felt like, oh, this is a thing of shame, you can't marry her, or would you have just sort of like thought, I don't know,
She was or no, she was not.
that she was circumcised?
I don't want to set price on market for me. I mean, if I'm at the point of saying that I want to marry you, believe me, it's not just about the sex anymore.
Right. Okay. So I think I kind of get why these things. I've gotten a very good view of it. The part that I'm still trying to understand is the prevalence of it in Nigeria in this generation. So our generation that is having children, the slightly younger generation that are having children, even in the areas in the west, and southwest, is this something that is still happening?
Yeah, when I gave you that data, Bimbo, that data was as the most recent was 2015 after good luck and female genital mutilation. All that data I gave you was from 2015.
No way. Wow. So that
Yeah,
is still happening. Man,
it is still happening.
I can't seem to get I cannot get my head around it. Um
But of course, it's not happening in the, like how did the last put it, right? It's not happening in the cities. It will not happen. It's happening in the interior areas. And if anybody wants to get it done, that's where they're going to go to. They're not going to do it on Lagos Island. They're not going to do it in Ikeja.
mm,
They're going to be going into places, but deep in Badagry, deep in the Korodu, just, hinterland. That's where they're going to go to.
I don't know about it happening in Ikorodu, because me, I'm from, actually no. As much as I'm from Ikorodu, I wasn't born in Ikorodu, so it could easily be
Yeah, but
happening.
not in that part of the Korodu that is very, you're going to go really deep into places. That's where it's going to happen. It's not going to happen where everybody is open eyes, for lack of a better word.
Yep, I agree with that.
Mm. So the UK
So
statistics.
we did eventually, we got a ban in 2015, but
Mm,
you know how it is in Nigeria. Enforcing it is one thing. And enforcement has to be two forms. It has to be education and consequences.
of course.
And we have a lot of education, but then the consequences, because first of all, who's going to report? Remember, they're not doing this in the hospitals, really. So who's going to go and report that? We have to start forcing.
Yeah.
You see, the enforcement part is very difficult because if you ask and say, okay, doctors or your pediatricians out there, when babies are brought to you or whatever, and you notice that this female child has been circumcised or whatever, you report to the police. What will eventually happen
Mm.
basically. And you
Yeah.
have a whole different set of issues to deal with. So the education is really the most important thing, where people it would not be not so much fraudable but looked upon as it's that was then. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that
I
is
mean, I can agree with that to some extent, especially if we're talking of a type 1 kind of circumcision. But if somebody does a type 4 to a child today, now, like really, there should be some kind of punishment enforced because that's just mutilation.
Yeah.
you know, like living in the village right there, you know. I want you to think of the village not as, you're going to Jebode. Jebode is not a village. There are villages outside Jebode where you can't even access my cars properly. And you have to walk there. And the man and the woman living in that hut have no shoes. So if you now want to not demonize that person, they will just stick to the hinterlands and not come out and continue to go to the Alapo and the Babalao to treat the child or whatever, whatever ailment may come on. And that's not, you have to be careful of unintended consequences.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised that it's actually not just those people in the remote villages. In the UK, there's 137,000 women and girls affected by FGM in England and Wales. 137,000. So it's not like it's just it's not that it's just happening in the remote villages or even some of that stuff. I mean, those are some of the people we want to get to, but in reality, those numbers are a lot smaller than the ones who are out there in the world who really should know better and have better and easier access to being educated, to being told about the disadvantages and the negatives of FGM. So the UK statistics were showing that there's been NHS has responded to over 1,500 contacts about FGM since June 2013. So more than a third of these have referred in people being sent to the police or children's services, and that's just in the last 3 to 4 years alone. Um, and there are protection orders that get put out as well. Like when someone says, actually, this child is being sent back to Africa or Somalia or sorry, not Somalia or India or something like that to go and have the FGM done. There can be protection orders put in place to say that this child cannot be taken out of the country, blah blah blah, and various things like that. And since July, there's been 2015, there's been 79 of those protection orders ordered. So it's still happening. It's still happening, and it's happening in the Western world. It's happening everywhere in the world. So these people who have access to be able to get themselves on a plane to come and to the UK, to US, and other supposedly enlightened countries are in enlightened countries, but they're not enlightened enough. So it does need to be a worldwide thing. I think this is something that probably needs to be taught in schools. There's something that needs to be public announcements. They don't make this public announcements anymore, where they do it. They tell you about things that are beneficial to you in your private life and everything. So these things, yes, I agree, they do need to be taught. Um, it's pretty depressing, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah. I'll be very surprised if so. This is something that I want to know is I'd like to know actually when when women who have had the extreme forms of FGM when they give birth, I'd actually like to know what kind of, I know they probably would have painful labors and long labors and everything like that. But I might, just from even the normal woman who doesn't have FGM or anything like that, sometimes when they're in labor for a very long time, they will then tend to develop complications in the future with things like constant urinating and various things like that. Um, Now, what would be surprising to know is there actually other diseases or stuff like that that comes out of, if you've, the complication of getting pregnant or having babies, when you have FGM. That's a statistic that I don't have. So, like, okay, even on a normal basis where you have complication um from being in very long labor, or you can actually develop complications. Like some women will develop I've forgotten what it's called now. It's a technical, I've forgotten the medical talk for it. Yeah, so where they start having, like, maybe they start peeing uncontrollably. Like, if a woman has been in labor.
I think you're talking about like when there's a fistula between the urethra and the vagina, and the urine just keeps coming out into the vagina. But there's also VBS. So I think it's one of the two that you're talking about.
There's that. There's also, I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember the name now. It's also there's also stuff that when the woman she's been in labor too long, she's had complications. Her uterus and her bladder gets affected, and she develops this. She keeps, I don't know. She pees uncontrollably. She can't control.
Yeah, it's 3%.
Oh, okay.
There's a fistula between the urethra and the vagina. So she's basically constantly peeing, and if it could get worse, it's not just the bladder and the vagina, also the
Uterus.
not the largest size, or the anus, and then you can have actually both feces and urine.
Yes.
That can
Yes.
be a complication.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah. So this is something that I'm trying to understand. That is there possibly a higher possibility of
There is a higher risk, exactly. There is a higher risk.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to understand. So there's so much more that hasn't maybe been understood or necessarily identified as a risk of MGM, because it happens donkeys of years out, after this has actually been done to them. So I'm sure there are complications that happen that nobody's ever really tied to the fact that this woman has FGM or something.
I'm sure there's some.
Because there are people that never know they're circumcised, so they're having all these problems. It's never connected, it's never tied. There's also not, unfortunately, this happens in a lot of places where we're not very good on data collection.
Yeah, we're not very good. Yeah, we're not, but I'm still I'd still be interested in knowing that. So
depression, unfortunately, depression is also the one thing that don't take. Mental health is not, we don't consider mental health almost. It's only in recent times that the Nigerian society has to pay a lot more attention to mental health. But that's also a big part of it, because the rest of them, we're talking about very physical side effects. And not everybody necessarily experiences that. But how about what it does to the psyche, the depression, the anxiety, especially if you have such a very painful sexual interaction, just the thought of anybody coming close to you. So you are going to have women who never get married, who never keep a relationship. And maybe no one is connecting the fact that you just have this old and see that everybody says she does not go married. But nobody is connecting the fact that this woman is probably she just cannot handle any physical relationship, and so she is isolated herself.
Exactly, and this is the kind of statistics that nobody actually thinks about. This is the domino effect that it's never really been researched or discussed or thought about properly, and that's one of the things that I think needs to be concentrated on as well. This is the research that needs to be done, because if you're going to go around and start teaching people and trying to get them to understand the negatives of doing FGM, you need to be able to give them examples of what can happen, not just the case of her first time might be very painful. She might have pain giving birth, because all the people people like that are just going to say, she be me too. I had pain when I was giving birth to a child. Then they will survive and everything. But when they start understanding some of the other things as well, that okay, it could mean that when they give birth, they can, they might not be, they might have what's it called, obstetric fistula, and be peeing and pooing non-stop. It might be that they actually never be able to have relations with a man, so it means maybe they might end up never even getting married or anything like that. It could mean that they die, they have a higher probability of dying when they're in childbirth, or various things like that. So I think there needs to be proper information that for people to learn about, to deter them from actually doing this to their children and grandchildren.
And you know what? I mean, considering our society right now, I think the fear of her not being able to get married or have relationships might actually connect more than all the other physical symptoms that one talks about.
Exactly. Yeah. So well, for me anyway, I can understand. I already know that okay, there's never going to be any reason why I'll ever put my child through that. And I can, I think maybe everyone on this call at least is enlightened enough to know, okay, maybe I don't want to do this, or I might do this in these circumstances or something like that. But what about it?
I don't know.
You don't know, you know that you never do it to your daughters, even though they're
Well, I know I will never know what I didn't do to my daughters, so I don't know about future parents that you're talking about for me here, please.
not for you per se. I'm just imagining, okay, maybe if you and your wife end up having one of those oh, miracle baby happening at dot dot dot. It happens. Okay, so sex after circumcision. This is the part that I'm interested in. So, Rachel, you and Moby had said, okay, the type of circumcision that you had actually meant that you had heightened sexual responses, and it made you a lot more sensitive. But you.
What did he say that? To be quite candid, I don't know if it heightened my sexual responses or not, because I like sex and I sex anything. But I will say something that is I embrace more.
Yeah.
Prior to my mom telling me, I wasn't a big fan of oral sex. I wasn't a big fan of foreplay. I wanted to have sex, let's go. After getting that information, I kind of, doing a little bit of research, I kind of embraced oral sex more, and that definitely affected my sexual life. I enjoy sex more now by embracing oral sex and foreplay more. I wasn't so much into that. And because from all the research I did, reading, it was very interesting. That period when I was doing all my research, people would wonder, what the heck are you reading? No idea why I was reading that. That seems to be, in order to improve the sex life of a lot of anyone that's circumcised, the biggest thing is to explore, have foreplay, oral sex, masturbation, get to know your body, know what works for you, and don't be afraid to tell the person, this is what you have to do to get me there. That is not working.
Right. Okay.
And that's what a lot of us have not done. We don't know what it looks like or feels like down there. Remember, I said before, my mom told me I didn't know what I looked like down there. I know I had a vagina, I had a vulva, but I didn't really know what it looked like. It was after my mom said, yeah, you were circumcised, that I actually took a pause, took a picture, and said, okay, that's what it looks like. I spent a lot of time masturbating. If I touch myself here, ooh, that feels good. And my husband got the benefit of that. He got to be told, yeah, you need to go there, you need to do that. And that's really the only medicine to this problem that we have.
Right. Okay. So why is it that?
I think that,
Very good word, because that's what women, men, that's what men need. We just need to be given directions. You're like traffic control. Tell us.
It's like all the flight attendants, exits this way, entrances that way.
Exactly. Let us move. We just want to, there's nothing that will gladden a man's heart that just look at the woman you're with and you intimate with at that moment, and you can see pleasure written all over her face. At that point, then you go, hey, what done? I have the job done.
Right, okay. So, Rachel,
It takes a lot of confidence to be able to do that. That is why the mental health aspect is very important. You see, someone is very depressed, if someone is very anxious and all of that, they're not, I wasn't doing that initially. Yes, I used to be someone who, if my husband did not initiate sex, I probably would. Did I enjoy sex? Yes. But I would never be the one to initiate it. I would never be the one to say, do this or do that. It took time to really come into myself and the right your hand, don't go that way and do that. It took time to get to that point.
yeah, so Rachel, one thing that I'd like to understand is it wasn't so much that the fact that you were circumcised. It was more the fact that you found out something about yourself that got you curious, that made you learn more about your body. So that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that doesn't have to just be for circumcised women. It can be for any woman, as well, in the sense that
It doesn't exactly, but it's more so circumcised because I also got to find out, this works for me better as opposed to, I'm talking to my friend. You talk to friends and they say, oh, this, and I'm done. And I know that he needs to take 10 steps before I get to that point.
yeah,
Now, my head kind of understands probably why that is so. And being that I know that, I'm like, yeah, this is what we have to do. So that we're not spending half hour. But I was never someone that did not enjoy things. I did enjoy things. You read all that art and all that stuff. I have more orgasms now that I know and I pay attention to myself than when I did not.
right, okay, that makes sense. As so okay, that in finding out, it allowed you to learn more about yourself, which in turn made sure that your husband also got the benefits of that. That's good. And I suppose that's one of the things as well is there was a story that I read recently where a woman was saying that she doesn't enjoy sex, she's been circumcised, blah blah blah, and she doesn't know how to, her husband, she's never had an orgasm, blah blah, she doesn't know how to help her husband. So I suppose in that kind of case, the good thing would be for her to actually know how to please herself first, what turns her on, what she enjoys, what she doesn't enjoy, for her to be able to then help her husband. Because I don't think anyone can tell her per se what her body should be feeling, or what buttons need to be pushed for her body to enjoy it. So I completely
Maybe, like, trust yourself. Do you prefer one finger, two fingers, three fingers? You prefer no fingers? You've got to find out. How is the man going to know what you like or what you don't like? Yes, I know we are kind of a reticent people. We keep certain information to yourself. You can touch yourself in front of him. This is how I need your finger to go. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, if you're in a relationship with someone that you are not that comfortable doing that in front of, you might want to rethink that and find someone else.
Of course.
Because I don't know how you'll be married to someone. I mean, there are people who don't know what their husband looks like naked, for crying out loud, right? Or what their wife. Everything is done in the dark. You have the only solution, the only medicine to this is get to know yourself, and that way you can teach your partner what you need.
Yeah, exactly. Because
otherwise, the man is shifting in the dark.
Exactly. But then don't you think that partly comes with the fact that sex is almost kind of, again, almost sort of demonized in a way in our culture, or even for women, especially in the fact that you can be seen as a promiscuous woman if you seem like you enjoy sex, or you know about sex or anything like that. And especially even, even after some people have gotten married, if you've been made to feel like as if being sexually aware is something that's negative, makes you look promiscuous and everything, you obviously will not be comfortable enough wanting to kind of explore your body with your husband around or whatever, because there's still that part of you that keeps telling you that don't let a boy touch you, you get pregnant, you can't do this, so you can't do that, so yeah, that all of that's something that has kind of been bred into us. So I'm not surprised that
It definitely ties. Yeah, it definitely ties into that. So being told as a married woman, when you have your kids should, your kids should make you happy. You should be all of that. But the great thing about Nigeria, for women in Nigeria right now, is that story is changing. There's so much more information and enlightenment coming every day that we have to change the narrative. You have to. There's no other person that can take care of you. There's no other person that can give you the best sex of your life if you don't tell them what you want. It's you. So you're really the one in control of your sex life.
exactly.
So if someone is not doing it right, you have to be able to say, oh boy, all that is not doing nothing.
Exactly, you need to get with the program,
The
mates.
guy is just going about thinking he's doing a great job. God forgive you. If he breaks up with you, he goes to the next girl thinking I'm so great at this. Whereas this guy is zero. I mean, even if you don't love him, for the sake of the next woman, just tell him, yeah, you need to up your game. This is not working. And men really also need to be able to ask the women. I'll give that to my husband. Even before I came on board with him, he would always ask me that question, and my head I was like, what's wrong with you? Do what you have to do. And then he would always ask me, where are you at? Are you good? Are you having fun? Did you come? And like, this is your problem. Do what you have to do. It's just time for me to
That guy is trying to look at his own filter to make sure that his filter still manages his problem.
All I knew was, listen, you are a man, do this thing, let's go. But the man would always be asking questions, and I'm like, what are you asking? Which is this exam? Like,
that's the problem with women. You think this thing is solar energy. You're more fun.
He needs to make sure that he has conserved properly. And and that's the other thing as well, is people, couples don't seem to talk about the sex in itself. They just feel like, okay, touch, okay, fiki faka, and then it's done. They don't go through that whole process of talking about, okay, this is what I like doing, this is what I don't like doing, this part is uncomfortable, I like to try this. Or the other time it wasn't, it kind of finished a bit too quickly. Can we do this next time? Can we do that? Couples don't seem to talk about it. I don't know why that's seen as something that you this is your your partner. Marriage isn't just so, or even just being in a relationship isn't just so that you can procreate or anything like that. That's not the only thing sex is for. I know people say that's what it's for. God has said sex is for procreating, so you shouldn't do it, whatever. That's not the religious part of it. If we're talking about the sustainability part of it, the part that we all in, basically, when you think about it, it's one of the few joys of marriages. There's other joys, but it's one of the few joys that you can immediately point to in a marriage.
we need to read our Bible, right? While the Bible definitely promotes sex after marriage, there is no way where it says it's only for procreation. The Bible says, when one of the apostles says, do not be depriving yourself of peace if we were talking about your sex. Your body is no longer yours. Your body is no longer his. You can have sex. You're married. That's the old plan. Paul said, if you know you cannot control yourself, marry. So what's the point of a marriage? So there's no way where it's just about procreation. The only thing is that Bible definitely promotes sex after marriage, not premarital sex.
If it was just procreation, Solomon would not be all over the place like the way he is.
Thank you. But once you are married, there is nowhere the Bible says it's only to born again.
Exactly. So this is the other thing as well. And one of the things that I've always thought. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, between religion and culture, we have taken and we have turned that information upside down to the detriment of. I try not to say just women. It just created for unhappy, not satisfied, and you're thinking, oh, to be a good Christian, I should really have sex with my husband. There's just no way the Bible has said that.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've always thought that the body in itself is everything the way the body has been designed has been made so evident as to how we should live our lives. Your body will tell you when it's tired, when you need to sleep, and all the various things like that. So if your body is actually kind of enjoying the whole process of sex, and even when you're pregnant, your whole body is kind of, it's craving that need for sex. It helps you kind of open up, but it also makes it intimate between the man and the woman when the woman is pregnant as well. That's the other part that people don't seem to notice, is that sex also allows that intimacy that you sometimes might not easily be able to get to, or with all the day-to-day hoopla of life. And this is some of the things that people don't seem to understand or realize, that it's not just about let's just have babies, or religion says it should be a certain way or not a certain way. They forget that actually there's so many things that your body tells you that you need to do. Being with your wife while she's pregnant allows the both of you to, with her body changing and all the dynamics and how that can mentally affect a marriage. It helps that you're able to still have sex, but it also helps her with making sure that, okay, when baby is about to come, the cervix is lubricated properly and is starting to open up and all of that stuff. So people don't think about these things. They just want to make it all about, it's been seen as, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but I'm losing that word. It's been seen as something that is repugnant if you enjoy sex, or if you exactly, or if you treat it as, experimenting with sex in itself is meant to be something that is bad, apparently, which is just.
Believe me, if God designed it just for procreation alone, He would have designed a more effective way of making that happen. Not the trial and error that we do.
True. And a lot of trial and error, to be honest. There's some people that go at it for a long time before the the benefits of pregnancy actually comes in.
Right. The baby is like a reward at the end of it, so you have to work very hard.
Exactly.
Somebody has not worked hard, that's why you be rewarded.
Exactly.
God recognizes our need for training.
Exactly. Practice makes perfect. Exactly.
You fail, you try again. So the baby is hard for you. You try again this night, and then you grade it and tell him where he needs to improve.
Exactly. So people that actually say that, sex is just for procreation, I'm trying to understand, does that mean that for these people, once they've had all their children, does that mean they just stop? Or you're just meant to continue until your body stops having babies? So when you hit menopause, does that mean you stop? What does that mean exactly? You're still married.
Go and enroll in the seminary somewhere. That's the end of your life.
Well, no, all I tell you is it would make for some very, very cold nights and lonely nights. It would be very hard.
Abio.
Thank God.
And the thing is, when women, to me, I believe it's kind of like a face, No two parts, male or female, are the same. So even when you have that FGM happen, that's happened to a female, it just means that, you need to find somewhere around that you're reaching, somewhere else that can give you the pleasure that you're looking for. And if you have a man that's with you that you love, it's for both of you to discover, Sometimes, just because your friends, as a woman, your friends are telling you that, if you put your yash this way like that for him, and it just goes and man, you will hit cloud so high. It doesn't work for every woman the same way.
Of course not.
No.
Of course not. It doesn't.
You have to figure out your own way. You have your own unique way. And so women, you might just basically, it might just be a simple touch or whatever underneath. Why that is going on, and that will just open up the floodgates. That is good. For other people, if you do the same thing, believe me, the gate will remain short. You have one person that has only learned one way, you'll be wondering.
Exactly.
Why am I not so good here?
And the other thing as well is when you now have, you know, part of getting to know each other as a couple as well is comes down to you being able to, you know, be instinctively know, you know, what that person, you know, how that person is responding to you. You kind of need to learn how to read your, you know, what your partner is enjoying and what they're not enjoying, or else you just be trying stuff, trying and trying and trying, and you won't know, you know, what works and what doesn't, except if they obviously the type that makes noise. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you need that whole exploring, that whole okay, nobody's ever done that to me before. I've never tried that before as well. But for some reason, because we are, you know, enjoying each other, we've tried it and we've managed to find out that wow, we both like that stuff.
And exactly every time you get on whatever, be the bed or the kitchen counter, whatever, think of yourself as the explorer. Think of yourself as David Livingstone or Uncle Park. You're about to go discover something new.
Uncle Park. Cool. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we are almost at the end of the show. It has actually been surprisingly informative. I think this was one of the shows. This is probably one of the few shows that we've had where I sort of thought, "Oh my God, I am just learning at every single moment." So it's actually, you know, it's been quite great. I hope you guys have also enjoyed it. Yeah, this is one for the books. I don't think I'm going to be forgetting very easily things that I've learned today. So that's always good. Yeah, it's always good to know. But anyway, guys, let us individually say goodnight. Rachel, do you want to say goodnight?
Yeah, this is Rachel New York, right?
Yeah, Rachel New York. The other Rachel isn't on the show.
Okay. Oh, I thought she was. Okay, Rachel, good night, people. I'm hungry, so I'm gonna have lunch. I have to like keep everything away to be on this call. Okay.
And thank you very much for that. All right.
Good night.
Okay, and I'm gonna let Dolapo say the last few words. So I'm gonna say good night now. Good night, everyone, and join us again on Friday for Apricot Hour, where we'll be discussing the week's headlines and basically just doing our gossip, and bibble. Good night, everyone. Dolapo, can you sign us off?
Well, good night, everybody. Remember, FGM, it's so 12th century. Here with the program, there's no need for it. We don't need to be sleeping anything out for ladies. Those areas just need to be loved. Bye.
Right. Great. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.